Hello guys and welcome to my channel. My name is Jesper and today we are going to talk about a sunscreen. Well, we are going to talk about a primer, and it's a primer with a sunscreen in it, or an SPF. It's an SPF of 30, and it looks like this, and it is from Paula'S, so it is from Paula'S Choice. So what is it for a kind of a product? Well, it is a silicone-based primer, and when you put it on, you get this sort of a classic feel that when you're using something with a silicone in it, it has a sort of a silky, sort of non-wet feel to it, and that is sort of the same feel that you get from this product here. So before we try it out in various ways, just to say a little bit about what is it that is in the product of SPFs, because if you have heard about Hawaii, that they have banned some sun filters, then I'm afraid that this one here contains something called octinoxate, and that is banned in Hawaii because of the reefs. So unfortunately, that is one of the sun filters that are in this one here. There are other ones in here as well. There is a homosalate, there is ethylhexyl salicylate, and we have spoken about those before because they are both derivatives of salicylic acid, and that is something that is hormone disturbing. It is they are hormone disruptors, so or that they are being tested for that, and salicylic acid in itself is a hormone disruptor. So the EU, they are testing it at the moment, so we have to wait for that, I guess, a couple of years. Anyway, there is another thing in here, and that is avobenzone, and that is one of those sun filters that are it has been used for many years, and it is one of the best UVA filters, and there is just a little thing about it, and that is it doesn't last that long. So it is being degraded when you take it out into the sun. So the UV light will actually degrade it, and it will do that relatively quick. So that is why you are often told that you need to reapply sunscreen every other hour or something like that. And in the EU, where, well, I'm not in the EU, I'm in England now. So they are having some different UV filters over here that are much longer lasting. But avobenzone is something that is usually used if it is for UVA, and that is something you have to reapply. So why would I say all that sort of thing? Because you know that if you're having a sunscreen, then usually you have to reapply it. But this is a primer. So this is actually something you are putting on before you're putting your makeup on. And what that means is that you are not going to reapply this during the day unless you are going to redo your makeup every other or every second hour. I don't know anyone who does that. I'm sure there will be someone out there that do that, but does that. But I don't know anyone. So I think most people are not redoing their makeup every other or every second hour or something like that. So anyway, it is a nice product to use underneath your makeup, but don't rely on it to last all day. For that, you need to have some sort of a top up, like a spray or something like that, maybe from La Roche-Posay. And if you want to see a video about a good spray from La Roche-Posay, then you can see it up here. So this one here, there are 10 milliliters in this one here, and that is a travel size. So the real size, that is, or the standard size, that is 30 milliliters, and I just bought this one here because I thought I wanted to try it, and I think 10 milliliters, that is well enough in order to have a good test of it. I would say it is not. It's not on the cheap side, I would say. So if you thought, well, when I use this one here, or if I use it, I will just have a good sun filter. Well, that sort of depends on how much you are using. If you are asking Paula, then she will say that you need to use a pea size if you want to use it as a primer. Now, a pea size, how much is that? Well, that would be kind of like a blob like this, if you can see that, like that maybe. And what that means is that this is for the entire face as a primer. And if you use this sort of amount here, then you are not getting any sort of something that is near an SPF of 30 on your face, because in order to get that you need half a teaspoon, and that will be for your entire face, your ears and your neck, but not your shoulders, just your neck and your face and your ears. So that would be a little bit more than this. So is it better than nothing? Well, I guess it is, but it certainly is not enough. So if we just try it on this side here, this is a blob that she says I need to use for the entire face. So I just need a little bit. So apparently a little bit goes a long way. And it is easy to distribute. I just have my normal skincare stuff on today. And that is what Paula, she recommends, that you are putting this stuff on after your moisturizer. You already know that because you know what a primer is. So yeah, we do like that. And it has this sort of, you can see that it's kind of like glistening a little bit. If you see this side, I'm kind of like matte. And this side is a little bit silky, sort of shiny. But I think it will subside, so it will kind of like go away as it sort of dries up. So maybe you can just see that it starts to be less shiny. Well, actually, I would say in this light here, it is a strong artificial light. So it does maybe shine a little bit more than it would do if you were in a natural light. So yeah, you put it on like that. When I tried it some of the other days, I had it on the whole day. It did not annoy my skin in any way. So like that. And I will say this is just a pea size, and there is maybe you can see there's a little bit of shine on my finger still. So there is I would say there is a little goes a long way, or at least this sort of pea size would be for my entire face. So I only put it on this side here. So I would still say that it is easy to distribute over the entire face. So like that, and just a little bit on the nose. So maybe you can see now, or at least I can see here in the mirror, that it starts to be way much less shiny. So it starts to take on this sort of silky, sort of matte-ish shine, and that is what they say it will do. It is not something that will make you completely matte, but it will give this sort of like a satin matte sand washed shine. So for that, I would say it's really nice, and when you feel it, it feels light. It feels like you would expect when you're using some sort of a silicone product. So for that instance, it's kind of like what you would expect. So how well does it last? Well, I would say that when I used it on a flat area like this that doesn't really move that much, it worked well during the day, but when I used it on my forehead, then it will kind of like go into the wrinkles. So it is like if you have an area, and maybe when you see that I'm talking, I am constantly kind of like using my forehead, and that means that I have an area that is moving rather a lot, and therefore it is really difficult not to have foundation ending up in those lines. So I for one need to be really careful whether not putting too much foundation on my forehead. So if we just take a little stuff here, and I have deliberately taken a color that is way darker than my skin tone, because then you can better see it. So we just put a little blob on it there, and there's maybe rather a lot, and just smear it out a little bit first, so you don't get a big blob into the sponge. And another thing is that when you are, and I think you can actually think that, like it seems obvious when you're thinking about it, when you're using a sponge, then it will be much easier to distribute on top of something that is supposed to be sitting and stay put in your pores, instead of using a brush like something like this one here. And obviously if you're using a brush, you will just be smearing, and then it will mix in together. So I think if you want the best out of a primer, I think you need to use a sponge like this one here, a beauty blender. So we just add a little bit, so kind of like do like that. So this, as you can see, is not my color, but it is just so that you can see how it will perform on top of this primer, like that. And I would say, apart from the smell of this L'Oreal Infallible fresh wear, 24-hour fresh wear. Who wears makeup for 24 hours? I'm sure there will be some that does, but most people don't. But it has a sort of a perfume to it. It's not super expensive perfume, if you know what I mean. So yeah, kind of like that. And then there will be people that will say that you need your primer to harden a little bit more before you put makeup on. And yes, if you just put it on when the primer is still sort of like wet-ish, then obviously it won't be a good thing to do. So you have to kind of like wait until it gets it calms down and be non-greasy to the touch. So yeah, I think it looks, when I look in the mirror here, it kind of like, I think it performs nice and very well, but when I use it on the forehead, then I would use very little. Let's take a little bit more here, just smear it out like that. Then I would use it very sparingly, because I think it has a tendency to move, even that you are using a setting powder or a setting spray or whatever you're putting on top in order to fix your makeup. I think on the forehead you always have to be very careful with not putting too much on, because it kind of like, it just always somehow moves. So yeah, I would say as such, if you are looking for something that is a nice and easy to use primer with a little bit of SPF in it, I would say that Paula'S choice is it's a good choice, but just don't count on it giving you any sort of meaningful sun protection, because you are using so very little that you won't get enough. So how much should I use if I wanted to use it as a sunscreen? There might be people saying, well, if it is a nice feeling on the skin and it doesn't come up as being very greasy and stuff like that, couldn't I just use it if I had very oily skin? Because a lot of people, they say that they have issues when they are trying to find a sunscreen that will hold up to a greasy skin, or a skin that are overproducing a sebum. So if I just dab on kind of like something like that, so that would be kind of like half a teaspoon. So I take just half of that, because half a teaspoon, that would be for my entire face and the neck and ears. I don't have big ears, but anyway. Then we would smear it on like this, and still, yes, you get this sort of a nice silky feeling. Kind of like it's kind of like it's evaporating between your fingers or something like that. But this will obviously take much longer for it to sink in. And the original, or the basic tube, this is 10 milliliters, so the other one is 30 milliliters. And I will say, if you want to use this as a sunscreen, using all this amount that you would need to add, and if you are happy with the sun fillers that are actually in, then I would say it is not the most economical thing to do, because this is actually rather expensive. So using it like a primer, a little goes a long way. So for that, it could be fine enough. But I would say if you're using it as a sunscreen as such, then you need to have sort of a deep pockets, because I think it is about 30 milliliters for here in England, about the £30 mark. So yes, there I would say there are sunscreens that are better options financially, and also for the sort of UV filters that are in the products, and which will last much longer if you are buying one that are approved here in the EU or in England, because I'm not in the EU anymore. Well, okay, so this is still greasy. So I would say if you are using this stuff like a sunscreen as such, I think you need a little bit of time for this stuff to find its right place or whatever, something like that, calm down and be workable. So yes, price wise and stuff like that, as a pure SPF, using it like that in the amounts that you would need to use, I would not sort of recommend that. So as a primer, I think it works nice, and when I'm touching it now here, it feels really like it doesn't feel greasy or anything, and it actually looks rather matte. So I would say that at least those two products worked very well. So using the Infallible from L'Oreal on top of the primer from Paula'S Choice, I would say that worked really well. But yeah, be careful on the forehead, because it kind of like, it always moves. So yeah, so yes. Just one thing, I am about to try this one here. It's a glycolic face mask, and it looks like this. And I have had it lingering a little while, because I was a bit like glycolic and bubble mask and stuff like that. I'm not quite sure how it's gonna work, but I'm going to try it one of these days, and then we will have a little bit of a review on that one. So if you would like to see that one, and if you would like to see more of this sort of videos, please subscribe, hit the bell, and do other things you must do in order to be notified when I upload more of this sort of videos. Thank you for watching. See you. Bye.